On October 25th at 6:02 p.m., will the secretary please take roll?
Senator Brigo,
Present.
Senator Blickhan,
Excused.
alrighty, sorry about that. Senator Burbach,
Unexcused. Oh, so excused. Unexcused.
Senator Burnett,
Excused.
Senator Byers,
Excused.
Senator Kaysen,
Present.
Senator Dummerth,
Present.
Senator Ford,
Present.
Senator Gillis,
Present.
Senator Hens,
Present.
Senator Huang,
Excused.
Senator Holzhauser,
Present.
Senator Jackson,
Excused.
Senator Senator Obert,
Excused.
Senator Richards,
Present.
Senator Shahan,
Present.
Senator Balkins,
Excused.
Senator Nichols.
Present.
President Odell,
Present.
Vice President Pruitt,
Present.
Student Trustee Walters,
Present.
Financial Officer Beck,
Present.
Internal Affairs Officer Salau,
Present.
External Affairs Officer Randolph,
Present.
Organization Relations Officer Mormon,
Present.
Student Diversity Officer Gorin.
Present. Moving on to line item 3, guest speakers. We will have 2 guest speakers joining us, the first being Housing Director Mallory Sedaris. If you would please approach the Senate and sign in. You have 10 minutes to speak. If time runs short, I will entertain a motion for extension by 2 minutes, but the Senate is not required to respond. I'll start a timer on my phone, which will begin now.
Well, welcome. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm going to also start a timer on my phone because we have all kinds of things we could talk about. So that'll keep me on track. But thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. It's always nice to see you all. It's nice to be here in person. So I do have a number of questions that Izzy gave me that you guys a group had come up with on Thursday. So I will address those and then some general things happening in housing, and then we will go from there. So one of the first questions, which I thought was great, is what can student government do to help support housing? And that is such an important question because really so much of it is about that student experience. And so while there's not this one particular thing, it really is that overall, like as your constituents who live in housing or you all that are residents, looking for those opportunities to continue to just get engaged and support that engagement. And especially for our first year students, as they're looking for those connections, it's such an important part of the puzzle and of their support network while they're here. And so just continuing to support those efforts, direct people to us if they have questions. Their misinformation is always, we would love to be able to answer questions students have. And so that is helpful. And just as you have those interactions, feedback that you get and you want to share with us is always appreciated as well. We really do work to have that open dialogue with our residents and knowing what's going on with them. But you all as their peers have some unique opportunities. So, sharing that as well is helpful. Are there any consistent complaints you'd like to address? I would hope not, but I think that's unfortunately probably not always completely the case. The big thing that came to my mind is that we are pretty full in our first year residence halls, particularly Bluff, Prairie, and Woodland. And so what that means is there's less opportunity for space change. There's less opportunity for private room. And so while that is something that we cannot change, we do try to have a lot of conversations with students as soon as they're starting to maybe explore that possibility of wanting a space change so that they know kind of what those circumstances are and how they can prepare for that. But I think that's something that just for you all to know that we are aware of that is challenging whenever space is tighter. There's less opportunity to do a space change or to move into a type of space that you want if that's not available. And so that's an ongoing thing for us. And that continues to be a piece of how we're educating our residents. How do they know the parts of the process when something could be available following the space change request so that we can do that follow-up. But that is something that we're hearing some frustration with that process. But on the flip side, we are very happy that so many of our first year students are living in our communities. And so that is a good thing. But also finding that balance for folks. How is housing supporting students during stressful times? Are there events or resources that are being readily provided for students specifically to help them with their mental health? This was a really good question. And I think it also helps for us to be able to set the stage a little bit and what the role of housing is and how we really partner with some of our other experts on campus. We are very careful to not make ourselves the mental health experts because we have counseling services and we have areas that really are the experts and are equipped to walk beside and support our students in mental health. However, we know that we play a very vital role in terms of those connections, making sure that they are connected and know some of those resources, and also a lot of that kind of well-being and wellness of living in a community and having support. So we do have a very strong relationship with counseling services. They are experts in student mental health. So we push out a lot of resources that they provide so that that is consistent with their other messaging, including their programming. They have group therapy options, and that information goes out to our residents. We also partner with counseling to do training for our staff, including our student staff a couple times a year, and then potentially throughout the year if we have in-services or some specific things where we would seek counseling services expertise to meet with our staff. We have a liaison program with counseling services. And so our staff, like our full-time professional staff, have a point of contact in counseling for their area. So they can talk through trends, they can request resources, they can partner with them to host a program in the building, they can do tabling. And we have that liaison program with other areas as well. So counseling, career development, academic advising. So we know because housing is sort of that hub, it was described to me as like a telephone phone bank earlier, which is slightly out of date in today's day and age, but that idea of connecting you to all the right resources. And so we try to have that infrastructure in place to know who those people are. So counseling is one of our liaison partners as well. But then kind of what does housing do in terms of that student experience? We're hosting active and passive programming around topics that connect to well-being. So for us, we're focusing on time management, study skills, sleeping habits. Like how are you doing those things that are setting you up to be successful? And plus socials and opportunities to build connections, because we know that a lot of this is about the connection piece. And so how are we creating space for folks to make connections with other residents, either in their building or outside of their building? And then also we are programming, while we have a very intentional curriculum and programming model, is intentionally builds in social opportunities and opportunities where students can do something fun and do that with their community or with all of housing. We are having our first haunted housing week this week, which we're really excited about. Those of you who have been around a couple of years may know that Prairie Hall, we've done a haunted house in Prairie Hall for many, many years. This year it's going to be a haunted trail. It's a little more COVID friendly than being out inside, but continuing to do that. But we've decided to kind of build around that and doing things in all of our different areas. We're hosting a pumpkin glow tomorrow night in the gardens. Over 40 residents have signed up to carve pumpkins and do that there, do a contest. There's a costume contest all throughout the week. So sometimes it's those things that are not so serious that help us, that help our students be able to engage a little bit with their community around them too. So that's going on as well. So that's kind of that counseling, how we supporting students piece. How is housing still responding with COVID and housing COVID students? If I don't hit on exactly what you were looking for with this question, Izzy, let me know. What I'm assuming is this is a question really about isolation and quarantine. We do continue to house students who may have to isolate or quarantine if they are on campus resident. Last year we had spaces in all of our communities. This year, all of that isolation quarantine spaces in Cougar Village. There are significantly fewer students using that process this year, as you can imagine. Just because the rate is lower, but also many students that are vaccinated are not required to quarantine if they're a close contact. So that really draws that quarantine number down quite a bit. I don't have as of this week, but as of 10 to 14 days ago, over 70% of our housing residents had completed and submitted the vaccination form to health service for approval. So a lot of our residents have completed that. And so that would mean that there's fewer students that would potentially have to quarantine. So we are seeing fewer people go through that process. We partner with dining and catering service to provide meal kits to residents if they do have to isolate or quarantine. They do that delivery. All that happens online. But again, those numbers are pretty low. The number of spaces and housing that are being used is a part of the COVID dashboard every week that gets updated. So if you're on the university website and are looking at any of those rates or any of that, there is a section for the number of housing, isolation, and quarantine spaces that are available. So far since the school year started, I don't believe we've dropped below 90. Right now, it's one space that's being used. So there's a lot of availability there. And then how are on-campus living rates? So are we moving towards a more normal number of students in housing? Are we still low on numbers? This is a great question. So our occupancy is currently around 85, low 80s to 85. That's pretty similar to where we would have been 2 falls ago. So fall of 2019, not COVID fall. Last year, we were around 60%. So that's a pretty big diff. Last year was a pretty huge, significant difference from a COVID impact standpoint. We are seeing that jump in our this year, but it's a different breakdown of where those students are living. So we have first-year students living in our first-year halls. That's making up a large percentage of that. But yet we're still really building back in our upper class areas because last year was only 60%. So if your occupancy is 60%, that number of people that we're drawing from for returners is much smaller than it's been in many, many years. So we are still seeing that in the upper class areas, the impact of that, but we are thankful for a large freshman class that has helped us bounce back a little bit this year. But that'll continue to be a building back process in our returning areas as we continue to try to move that occupancy needle. That's a really important part of our operation. And also it has multiple facets, but we want to continue to try to house as many students who want to live on campus and be able to know, and we continue to do the research, but we know their success in terms of academics and engagement is higher when they're a part of those residential communities, especially in those first year or two. So we want to continue to make those connections. Another piece that's part of that is just today we kicked off our reservation process, which is the process for current housing students to sign up to live on campus next year. I know it seems very early. It goes all the way into the spring, but there are students who are ready to make that decision now. So when they're ready to commit to that, they can go and do the application. In February, we actually open all that up into a mostly student self-selection process. So returners select the specific space they want to live in Cougar Village or Evergreen with some small exceptions. So that was what I had prepared based on those questions, but if there's anything else, happy to answer that.
I will now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. Senator Shahan.
I move to open the floor for discussion.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Lambert. The floor is now open for discussion. Oh my goodness. Senator Shahan.
My apologies. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I just had a quick question for you on amenities. What kinds of perks, if any, has student housing thought of as cheaper options with more amenities pop up off campus around Edwardsville?
What was that question again? Sorry, I could kind of barely half hear you.
No, you're good. What kind of perks, if any, has student housing thought of as cheaper options with more amenities pop up off campus?
So yes, there is more off-campus competition. I very frequently say we cannot win an amenities war. Our facilities are not structured in a way to be able to add washers and dryers everywhere. We're not putting a pool in Cougar Village, and I can't add a bathroom to every unit. So there are, for us, it's 2 parts. It's how are we telling a value story? We know our story about our impact, and are we making sure that that is getting out to folks that have that influence, plus to our residents and their co-decision makers. We met with advisors in health and human behavior last week. Rex Jackson, Associate Director of Residence Life, and I, and are kind of putting together a roadshow to some extent with our academic partners, knowing that there's a lot of opportunity to make sure that people know what the housing experience is. So one of it is a marketing and value piece. The other part of it is knowing what we have and the stock available, how are we maximizing that to meet student demand? So one of the ways that we've done that is the deluxe apartments in Cougar Village. So 2 years ago was the first year that we did that. It's essentially an apartment that can guarantee to only have 2 people in the apartment. It's new furniture. There are full-size beds in the bedroom. And so there we had to take our existing building, but what could we change to meet a need, which is I wanted less people in my apartment and maybe a different style of furniture, or not living with a twin bed anymore. And so we did that and we're able to fill those. And we added another building this year to meet that demand as well. We've been doing a similar thing in Woodland Hall as we've done renovations to those space. We've taken a pause this past COVID year. And then this year, we're excited to get back into that renovation cycle of new floors and some other things in Woodland that then we can also potentially make more demand for deluxe private spaces there. So a lot of what we're doing is looking at what our current stock allows us to do to meet some of those specific needs. Perk-wise, again, financially can't really compete with some of our off-campus perk options. Our perk right now is we're offering you a t-shirt if you're one of the first 50 people to sign up for the application, the reservation process. So I hesitate to call that a perk. But I mean, some of that is more of like this is really what's making the person sign up, but thank you for taking that step. And it's a promotional piece for us and you're getting that out. And so we're looking at some of those continuing to do that as well. But
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Internal Affairs Officer Salau.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming to speak with us.
Yeah, no problem.
I'd like to use the opportunity to ask, is there a reason behind the requirement for students to leave residence halls during break weeks like Thanksgiving break or spring breaks? I know it's very inconvenient for many students, especially international students who plan to live on campus for the whole of the semester.
Yeah, I think, that's always, I shouldn't say it's always, but it's frequently something that does come up. But our Bluff, Prairie, and Woodland, so starting out, Cougar Village and Evergreen do not close for breaks. So our residents that live in Cougar Village or Evergreen Hall can check in on August 18th or whenever that is, and they do not have to leave again until the end of the spring semester in May. Those areas are structured that way. They have kitchens, they have more things for like a more independent living environment, especially during the times of the year where campus is closed essentially, or there's very limited options here to support dining and that kind of thing because there's not many people on campus. So there are those areas that we know for folks that are not going to leave, they have the option to do that. In Bluff, Prairie, and Woodland, we give students the option to stay, but it is an additional rate. We do our best to make that very competitive. Like you couldn't stay at a hotel for $20 a night. So being able to stay in your current space, but that does accommodate the fact that those buildings are not, their contract and those structures are not built on being open for breaks. And so gives students an option to do that, but there is a cost because you're essentially staying outside of the contract period. And then we typically will work with a student too to make sure that really is their best option. For some students, that is their best option. And so we may even have a conversation about, would you rather temporarily stay in a space in Cougar Village for winter break? I mean, we really are also trying to make sure we're accommodating. Sometimes a freshman student's not going to know what that means to be here for a break. And then all of a sudden the building is empty and nothing's really open. And so what have we worked through maybe all of our options? So that's part of that conversation too.
Thank you. I hope, is that a conversation that you have with students who ask about the opportunity to live in Cougar? Because I know when I lived on campus, I never had that opportunity and I didn't have anywhere to stay. So that wasn't an option.
Did you live in Cougar Village?
No, I lived in Bluff, but it wasn't an option to live in Cougar just for the week. And first year students don't technically have the option to stay in Bluff or Cougar during the first year.
Correct. If you are a first year student, like if you just graduated from high school, so that's how we do Bluff, Prairie, Woodland. Like we don't base it necessarily on how many credits you have. We're really looking at how old you are and really where that, like, when did you graduate from high school? And that's going to make you eligible for either a first year or upper class area. So if someone is a resident in Bluff Hall, though, they could choose to stay for the week. There would just be additional costs associated with that.
So I'm asking, is there an option for them to choose to stay in Cougar for that week without the additional cost? Since living in Bluff is more expensive than living in Cougar anyway.
No, that would not be an option. They could choose to stay in Cougar Village for the one overnight rate that we charge across the board, because we don't charge that rate differently. A shared bedroom, if you're staying overnight, even though the rates are different, we keep that consistent. So it would be a shared bedroom in Bluff is $20 a night, or a shared bedroom in Cougar Village is $20 a night.
So is there any possibility for a plan to make that happen for students, to make it easier and more convenient for them to have a place to stay, so that, because with the beginning of the contract, they don't know that they have to leave campus during break weeks. So it comes as a shock when they have to leave for that 1 week or pay $20 per night.
So it is included we include that in a lot of different places, and it's in the contract and everything. So I think, do you think students need to have that better communication up front? Like, we need to make sure folks know prior, maybe in an additional way besides just the contract, because it's not a secret. Like, I'm not trying to keep that a secret. Like, we push that out on the website and the contract that is that structure. So that's great feedback in terms of maybe there are students who don't know that they're going to have to be able to do that. And there could be some space where we have to push that information out for sure.
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Student Secretary Moxley.
Hi, I know you said that you guys partner with the mental health services, the counseling services. Have you considered maybe having like counselors in the residential area for like a little bit? So I know when I lived in Woodland, we had like an advisor's office. I was wondering, there's a lot of logistics to that. Like,
Counseling in residence is a thing. That is something that occurs in some places. We have for a lot of years had academic advisors in the halls, and that actually we pulled out because of lack of demand. Students really weren't utilizing that service. What we were finding more often than not was that they were already up here. And so that's where they wanted to have those appointments, and they weren't utilizing those services in the hall, which is why there's an empty academic advisor space that we're working through. I think counseling is a little different though. So I think that's a good question. It's certainly something worth the director of counseling and I discussing. It would be her staff and her resources. So that would really be a good question for her. But I think in a lot of things though, we do look at like, what is the demand for that? Something like that would definitely involve some student feedback in terms of what exactly are they looking for? Is it more a crisis response or a place to make appointments? And I think those are different things. And so what that would utilize.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Senator Richards.
Hi, thank you so much for coming tonight. So one question that I have is in regards to like housing, charging student organizations fees for utilizing space when event services has no fees. So I was just wondering the reasons behind that.
So I can only speak to housings and not what event services does. For us, though, we keep the fee for student organizations as low as possible, but that essentially covers, there are costs associated when someone is using the space, the setup of that, the cleaning of that. And if a student org is using that, it's not a housing organization using that space. So those are not, we have to be good stewards of what those housing fees are. So people who are paying to live on campus are not paying for a student organization to use the space and not have to pay for it. And so that's why we try to strike that balance to make that as affordable as we can and available for student organizations, but there is some cost to pass on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Senator Shahan.
Hi again. I just have one more question. So I have heard multiple complaints towards the beginning semester from upper class students regarding wait times for maintenance, specifically with concerns towards AC and heat maintenance. What feedback can you provide on the housing maintenance process in those week to 2 week wait times that they were experiencing?
Yeah, so a couple things in there. We did have some impacts from COVID that did impact some of our wait times right at the beginning of the school year. And we did partner with our friends in facilities management and did whatever we could, and tried to have that communication with students. But we absolutely had times where the wait time would really be outside of what we would traditionally see. Historically, our response time for a work order at 96% of the time last year is less than 48 hours. So that really is the standard. There was a time at the beginning of the year where we were not meeting that standard. So I think that's not really the ongoing practice. I will say though, on a facility side, is our facilities are starting to age. We see more of things that can potentially be prevented, but also things that can't, like a water pipe cracked the other day because it's 30 years old. And eventually a lot of that's going to happen, but there's no way for us to preventantly open every wall in the building for that to occur. So unfortunately, it feels like we're putting out a lot of facilities fires, and do that with limited staff. And so sometimes those immediate things can make some of the things that maybe could wait a day push back. But we do continuously try to improve that. Have that communication as much as we can for us is an important piece of that. Like if we believe we're going to be able to get there that day and then something has occurred that's going to pull them off. We only have 2 of most of our trades. So there's 2 plumbers, 2 carpenters, 2 electricians, 1 laborer, 1 painter. So anytime you have drywall, like something cut out, then it has to be repaired, there's 1 person that has the ability to then tape, paint, and repair that and stuff. So it definitely is a puzzling piece of getting that all to work together. But yes, we are continuing to look at what those wait times are, trying to address if there's any that are longer. But beginning of the year can speak to that was unfortunately not what we would like to see, but there were some that were pretty long.
Sure. I have a quick follow-up to that.
Yeah.
Mostly since it was regarding AC and heat concerns, do you guys have a contingency plan going into like the winter to make sure that students either have fans or heaters that they can use for the time being in their rooms while they wait for maintenance requests to be filled?
So no heat is a little bit different than AC, I would say. Like we have things that are considered like a maintenance emergency versus a maintenance inconvenience. And I realize that when it's warm and your AC doesn't work, that feels like an emergency. And so I don't want to minimize that. But when it's very cold and someone's heat's not working, that is more of an emergency in terms of you may be calling somebody out after hours. You may be looking outside of that to address those things as quickly as possible. We wouldn't say you can turn on a space heater to keep your space warm because there would be safety concerns associated with that. So some of those things are gauging what can we do tomorrow versus what do we have to take care of today? And there are certain things related to if it's freezing and there's no heat, we're going to take care of that today. It is also important though for students to know, and I think as we kind of talk, what can you all do? That's an important thing, is that if it is after hours, the website and all those things says what to do, but sometimes students don't do that. So then it feels like, well, I told someone, well, you didn't tell anybody through the method that anyone would know until the next day. And so then that can feel like it wasn't addressed whenever it was either sent to facilities management on main campus and not housing, or it was not calling the emergency number, but just calling the office and leaving a voicemail, and no one's checking that at 10 or 11 at night. So, we push that out, but continuing to look at how are you communicating what the problem is so that we can best address it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I will now entertain a motion to close the floor for discussion. Sorry about that. Internal Affairs Officer Salau.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask that given that the first year residence halls are getting closer to max capacity, do you think there's a possibility for the need for a new residence hall like in the near future?
So I think we still have a lot of space in the residence halls because we have a lot of flexibility with private and shared rooms. So we can, if everybody was in a shared bedroom, it's close to 1,500 freshmen that could live in the residence halls. And there's not near that demand for freshmen to do that. So it's always a balance between what are the number of shared bedroom requests and the private bedroom requests. And in our shared halls, you don't have to do anything to the room. It just means no one else is assigned to it like that. So we're always finding that right contractual balance of how many people are in a private bedroom. So that's what we would be addressing before we would start to entertain anything with building a new building. I mean, we're a long way from that. Financially, that would not be an option at this point. We still carry quite a bit of debt service on our newer buildings. So we're still essentially paying off our mortgage. So we are talking, starting though, to have those conversations in the next couple of years is what is the housing master plan? 10 years from now, we may be having a conversation about what are our buildings, what is the space, what's the demand and the need for that. And that's where that would happen. But right now we can accommodate any first year student that wanted to live with us.
Okay.
I will now entertain a motion to close the floor for discussion. Senator Shahan,
I move to close the floor for discussion.
do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Hens. The floor is now closed for the discussion. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Moving on to the next guest speaker, we have Military and Veterans Services Coordinator, Talisha Reinhardt. If you would please approach the Senate and sign in. You have 10 minutes to speak. If time runs short, I will entertain a motion for extension by 2 minutes, but the Senate is not required to respond. I will start a timer on my phone, which will begin now.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You should hear shaking in my voice. I'm not nervous. I'm just really cold. It's like a freezer in here. Hello, my name is Talisha Reinhardt. I'm with Military and Veterans Services. I first want to thank you all for putting on that Veterans Day luncheon that's going to be happening on the 11th. I believe it's McKinsey I've been in contact with. It's been great talking to you via email. So I want to thank y'all for always having that every single year. Just to let you know real quick, the things that Military and Veterans Services is going to have scheduled that same week leading up to you all's luncheon. We did not schedule anything on the 11th, just because we didn't want to conflict with that since we want that to be the center of the week. So what we're going to be doing the week of Veterans Day is hosting 3 events that Monday. We're going to have our Honoring Veterans celebration, Honoring Veterans ceremony. He's going to be here in the Goshen Lounge. During that event, we're going to have a speaker from Military and Veterans Services, Veterans Upward Bound, which is located down in the East St. Louis Center. Our new, our SVA, our Student Veterans of America secretary, our new president will not be available during that time. And the new major for the ROTC, Major Eddie Woody. We're also going to be having a tabling event during that time, as well as some giveaways and some light refreshments. That Tuesday, we're going to have a virtual event, the State of Veterans in the Madison County, State of Veterans in Madison County, a virtual talk with the Madison County Veterans Assistance Commission. During that talk, they're going to be talking about the state of veterans in this county. What are the conditions of veterans? What are some gaps that exist for veterans in this county? What is employment looking like? What is education looking like? What is the conditions of our veterans? What is it something that SIUE can do to fill that gap? And on that Wednesday, we're going to have our From Uniform to University Afghanistan War Veterans in the Community. During that virtual event is going to be a panel of Afghanistan War veterans who are going to be sharing their experience. I'm sure we've heard in the news how the war was handled. But one thing that we did not see during that discussion on the news and in the media, whatnot, was the actual veterans themselves. Here at SIUE, during that virtual panel via Zoom, we're going to be giving veterans that space. And then, of course, Thursday is the Veterans Day luncheon. And that Friday, we're not going to have anything planned because there's barely anybody on campus on Friday, and it would be kind of a waste of money to throw an event where no one shows up to. So I just want you all to know what's going on during that week leading up to the Student Government Veterans Day luncheon. Also, some things we have going on is the many programs that have come out of the Military and Veteran Resource Center. So if you take these stairs up, it leads you up to the Resource Center. I remember in the spring when it first opened up, we did have 1 or 2 people from the student government come and check out the space, but I would love to see all of you come visit the space to see what we have up there for our veteran population, our our military affiliated population. We have about 990 military affiliated students here, and that includes our student veterans, active duty, National Guard, reservists, and dependents. In that space, we have printing for students, we have free coffee for students, we have computers for students. You have my office, you have our director's office, and you have our VA work study students. These are student veterans who assist students with their transition here to SIUE. They provide campus tours with other military affiliated students, and they they provide a welcoming environment to this population on campus. Some of the important things that we have had come out of the office is our military affinity groups, our military and veteran resource center affinity groups. Those groups provide a space to more marginalized identities within the military and veteran community. Certain identities that we don't think about, such as our LGBTQIA veterans, our women veterans, our disabled veterans, our veterans of color, our spouse and dependents. These virtual meetings bring these identities together to network, to be introduced to service and resources that they didn't know about. We have to start thinking beyond the American Legions and the veterans of foreign wars when we think about the veteran community. There's so many identities within the veterans community that we need to start bringing together and remove from the margins and bring them into the center as well. Something else we have going on is our Military and Veteran Resource Center book club. This is our opportunity to learn about these different identities, to learn about the history of the military and veteran population and the policies and procedures that created the armed forces themselves. Another thing that we have started this semester was bringing access into the Military and Veteran Resource Center. One thing that we do not talk about a lot is the conditions when veterans leave the military. What are the conditions? There are some veterans that leave with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, hearing loss, other different disorders. And when they come to SIU, they're bringing these conditions with them. So by bringing access to the Military and Veteran Resource Center, these veterans are able to speak with access in an environment that they're familiar with, an environment that's a space carved out for them. And this does not mean that this population can only speak to access during those office hours in our office. They can speak to access anytime. But this is for the veterans to be able to see access in a space that's their own. And that's all I have right now. That's new, that's out of our office. Last time I met with y'all was back in the spring. And these things weren't even established yet. So I wanted to update y'all to let y'all know that these things are now established. They're up and running. They're successful. I wanted to fill y'all in about what's going to be going on during Veterans Week. I also wanted to remind y'all of the Military and Veteran Resource Center, that space is there. That space serves 990 students this fall semester. Please get up there and check it out. This is also a space for all students. Do anyone have any questions?
I will now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. Senator Shahan,
I move to open the floor for discussion.
is there a second? Seconded by Senator Kaysen. The floor is now open for discussion. Senator Shahan?
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I just had one quick question for you. How does Military and Veteran Services partner with ROTC on campus?
So Military and Veteran Services and ROTC are separate offices, but we do have a lot of communication. So there are some students who are in ROTC who are reservists or National Guard, but they would still need to receive our services if they're going to school or maybe on a military or veteran benefit. That's where we would still come into play. But we would not participate in their ROTC training. We do not have any part in that. Say if there is a student who is a ROTC candidate, but they do not have a military background, meaning they're not in the National Guard, they're not a reservist, they don't have any prior active duty time, they wouldn't have any affiliation with the services that we provide because being an ROTC candidate is not a military status. I know people might see them in their uniform, but unless they actually have a military affiliation, meaning they have signed a contract, they're not technically military in any way.
Thank you so much for the clarification.
Senator Hens?
Hi, thank you so much for coming out to speak with us today. You mentioned how that you've brought access into your office, but you also mentioned many of the mental disorders that many veterans suffer from, like PTSD.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering how you were working with counseling services and if you had any plans to bring them into your office for the veterans.
Thank you for bringing that up. We have a constant contact with counseling services. Currently, as of right now, their counseling services provide generalized counseling. They do not have a counselor on staff that's specific in addressing veteran-related issues, military-related issues. Do we still tell veterans that these services are there? Of course, because there's a lot of veterans who are using their GI Bill. Their GI Bill is being used to fund offices like counseling services. So yes, we do tell that those offices are available, but we do lead them to services and organizations out in the community that's trained and specialized in what they need. We have the Vet Center out in Shiloh. We have the VA out in St. Louis and different services like that. So before we tell them where to go, we need to know where that veteran is in their life before we hand them off to a counsel, whatever counseling service they may choose, because this is their life. Their mental health has to be intact for their education to go well. So if counseling services, does not have a staff that specializes in something, okay, we have to pull this veteran aside, but what do you want? What type of counseling do you want? Because we only provide this type of service.
Okay, thank you.
Internal Affairs Officer Salau.
Thank you for talking to us about the resources you have. How can student government better support military and veteran services?
Ooh, that's a really good question. That's really good. First, it will be to come see our office because I ain't seen none of y'all faces. Okay. Come know who we are. One thing I will point out is that y'all host that annual luncheon. People know that. When we have some people come into our office and leading up to when the announcement was put out, when is the student government going to announce that luncheon? So that's known. That's known. It's known that y'all do that. That's beautiful. I was able to get that out to our community partners. First is coming in our office and getting to know your faces and interacting with our community. Because one thing we're a very isolated community. We don't open up to everybody. I remember when I got out of the military and went to school, I didn't talk to nobody other than veterans. So it took me a while to even open up to civilian students. Just really coming to our office, getting to know us. We have a lot of events that we have scheduled, getting involved in those. If you hear about anything out in the community, letting us know what those things are so we could share it with our students. That would be a good start. But first step, coming upstairs and visiting us.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we just got a new president over Student Veterans of America, our SBA group. So connecting with them because they're really our boots on the ground with that student interaction, and they meet weekly. So I could definitely talk to them about getting a representative from student government on the agenda for any upcoming meetings.
All right, I will now entertain a motion to close the floor for discussion. Senator Shahan,
I move to close the floor for discussion.
is there a second? Seconded by Senator Richards. The floor is now closed for discussion. Thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And thank you for that luncheon.
Moving on to line item 4, approval of minutes from October 11th, 2021. Senator Richards,
I move to approve line item 4, approval of minutes, October 11th, 2021.
moved by Senator Richards. Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Shahan. We will now proceed with a roll call vote.
Acclamation.
Acclamation has been called. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the motion is passed. Moving on to line item 5, Senate reports. I'll hand it over to the secretary.
Senator Abrigo. My report is in the packet. I attended Curriculum Council on October 21st. The General Education Subcommittee reports there were 9 new staff hired to keep up with the influx of new students, and there's plans to make revisions to the U.S. culture/global culture course experience with the goal to implement changes for fall 2023. The new codes program was also voted on and unanimously approved. I'm also working on possibly holding a tabling event towards the end of the semester for stress management geared towards health-related majors. Senator Kaysen?
My report is in the packet, and the only thing I wanted to add is that I am attending an accreditation Zoom for the School of Business tomorrow. So I'm going to be able to speak to some professors and other administration from other universities about our School of Business. So I'm super excited about that tomorrow.
Senator Demmerth?
My report is also in the packet, and then I just want to add that I'm excited to do the mental health programming tomorrow.
Senator Ford?
My report is also in the packet, and I would just like to add that I emailed the dean of my college, and I'm waiting on a response.
Senator Gillis?
My report's in the packet. I just wanted to add, I was in my graduate committee on assessment meeting this morning. Not too much in terms of updates there, but we had successful revisions, I will say. And I had a joint engineering student council meeting on Friday, and we're discussing a potential tour of an Anheuser-Busch factory for engineering students and anyone else who's interested. And we're also coordinating to have another open house and I believe elections at some point.
Senator Hens?
My report is also in the packet. I'm happy to report that my self-defense classes went over well, and they went over so well. I got a lot of feedback from students that they'd actually like to see it come again. The trainers were happy to have some more events, so we plan to host 2 or 3 more self-defense classes next semester. I also was supposed to have a committee meeting this Friday, but it got pushed back to the 3rd. I still have not heard from my Elastal committee.
Senator Holzhauser?
My report is in the packet. I would like to add that I am excited for all of the School of Pharmacy students to be back on campus after our 3-week break and being on rotations, and to make more connections with my constituency.
Senator Jones?
My report is in the packet. I would just like to add that my surveys are done, so I'm going to be sending it to the deans, and I'll be sharing it with the Joint Engineering Student Council also. Only thing I have left to add is please eat my cupcakes in the back.
Senator Lambert?
My report is in the packet. I would just like to add that I had a great time spending the weekend with some fellow senators and exec board members at our bonding event this weekend at Eggert's, and that I am looking forward to Mental Health Week this week, put on by Senator Shahan. I know she's worked really hard for it. And then I additionally have a graduate programs committee meeting this Thursday where we're going to be talking about some proposals by 5 different graduate programs.
Senator Richards?
My report is in the packet. I'm very excited to attend some of the Mental Health Week events this week that Senator Shahan is putting on. I'm also looking forward to working on the pumpkin smashing event with President O'Gell. I have a meeting with the Office of Academic Advising this Wednesday to work on implementing some pre-advising. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes and moving forward with that initiative.
Senator Shahan?
My report is in the packet, just a few quick additions. Mental Health Week is this week. So I just posted a template for a message that you can send to your student organizations on Slack. Please make sure to remind students that every single event that they go to this week enters them into a gift card raffle for multiple gift cards for students. Tomorrow we have the meditation session with Dr. Markowitz from 9 to 10 a.m. in the Maple Dogwood Room, and a Pop Out the Stigma tabling from 12 to 2 right here in the Goshen. My Honorary Degrees and Distinguished Service Committee is meeting this Wednesday, and I have my External Affairs meeting tomorrow.
Senator Nichols?
My report is in the packet, and I wanted to add that I also met with the Health and Counseling Services Advisory Board today, and we plan to send out a student survey on each class's Facebook page. And we also discussed budgeting and possibly implementing a student use fee. So they'll probably come to one of our Senate meetings and talk to us about that in the upcoming future.
Moving on to line item 6, executive reports. I'll hand it back over to the secretary.
President Odell?
Okay, so I also went to the bonding event this past Saturday. It was very fun, but very cold. But kudos to Internal Affairs Officer Salau for putting that together for us. It was super fun. I also attended the CHAPA meeting on Thursday where we discussed the future of the CHAPA reviews and all of that. I also attended a chancellor search on Thursday as well as today, or a chancellor search. A chancellor search finalist. I met with one of them on Thursday and today, and there is still one on Thursday this coming week that you all are invited to. It has been super fun getting to know these candidates, and I really encourage y'all to show up. I'll be there. Izzy will probably be there as well, so you won't be alone. I'm also attending many mental health week events this week. And so I hope to see you all at those as well. And lastly, this Sunday is Halloween. And so if I don't see you all before then, make sure you have a fun but safe Halloween. And that's all.
Vice President Pruitt.
I also attended the bonding event and also attended the Chancellor Finalist Forum, and those went well. I also finished up evaluations and we'll be giving that out tomorrow. So hopefully those are good. That is good. Feedback for all the senators. And I also wanted to mention that this month, Senator of the Month was Hannah Shahan. So kudos to her, and everything's Mental Health Week.
Student Trustee Walters.
My report is in the packet, and also I will be at the Halloween parade this weekend walking with student government. I'm super excited and I hope to see a lot of you there.
Financial Officer Beck.
My report is not in the packet. So at last finance board, I had Senator represent me as vice chair. I want to thank her. She was able to meet with one organization, and that organization will be mentioned later on, and I got voted. So that was what's going on during my office hours. Along with that, I got to visit one of the chancellor finalists and meet with him. That was a really fun experience. I went to the bonding event this weekend, which is also super fun. And then in my office hours, I've also been working on a pamphlet that's going to be talking about like the travel requests, the funding requests, and also the annual allocations. It'll be more of like a paper thing you can just see and like unfold and everything. I'm not the most artistic, so it might not look great at the first couple rounds, but it'll get there. And lastly, also I want to say thank you to Senator Gillis for being the guy who made quorum for us for Finance Board. So.
Internal Affairs Officer Salau.
I'm very excited that I've received feedback that a lot of people had fun at the bonding event. I look forward to planning more. I attended one of the Chancellor finalist sessions, and I think it was very cool to listen to a possible new Chancellor. And I look forward to attending the next session on Thursday.
External Affairs Officer Randolph.
My report is in the packet. I just wanted to send out a friendly reminder that the Halloween parade is this Sunday at 6:30. So please come and attend. Also, a reminder that the Veterans Day luncheon is November 11th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. And also, I have an external affairs meeting tomorrow at 7.
Organization Relations Officer Mormon.
My report is in the packet, and I look forward to helping out with Mental Health Week this week.
Student Diversity Officer Gorin.
My report is in the packet. I just wanted to say that I hosted the Student Diversity Council meeting on Friday, which went smoothly. We just talked about the movie night, which was on Friday. We had a few people in attendance, which was nice. It was a good viewing together. And then I attended the bonding event on Saturday. I had a lot of fun with that. I'm looking forward to helping out with Mental Health Week. And I also just wanted to highlight that I scheduled a virtual conversation with Dr. Holmes and Dr. Griffin, who are part of the Arkansas Association of Black Psychology Professionals, and they were recommended by a psychology professor here at SIUE. And they will be speaking on the intersectionality of African American identity and mental health. So that's going to be Friday at 12 p.m. on Zoom, and you can find that information on the Linktree and wherever else the events are listed. And then I'm also looking forward to the Halloween parade. I will be there as well. Thank you.
Moving on to line item 7, additions to agenda. Seeing none, we will move on to line item 8, old business. Seeing none, we will move on to line item 9, new business. Starting with section 1, travel requests, subsection A, fiscal year 21 travel request for the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. I will now hand it over to Financial Officer Beck.
Alrighty, so this organization is going to be going to their national convention from November 10th to November 14th. They had met with Finance Board 2 times, once with me and then once with Senator Lambert. The original time they met was not very eventful because they were originally going because they wanted to do it for like getting a job for the purposes of like getting something after college. In our finance manual, that is like strictly a no-no. So we had to go over like what you can do in order to like get approved. So we talked about if they brought another member who is not going there for the purpose of getting a job, for the purpose of learning, and for the purpose of making SIUE and the organization better, we would be able to work with approving that stuff. So they came back and they gave us a lot more information than we were expecting. So they have like a date on when they're going to present everything that they learned. They have a date on when they're going or what they're doing and everything that they're going to do at the event as well. And so whenever they had voted on it, it did get approved. So any questions?
I will now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to approve. Senator Gillis.
I move to approve line item 9, new business, section 1, travel request, subsection A, fiscal year 2021 travel request for Society Hispanic Professional Engineers for the allotted amount of $525.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Kaysen. You guys have it. Congratulations.
Acclamation.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Are there any objections? Seeing none. Someone call that? Okay. Okay. Seeing none, the motion is passed. Moving on to section 2, new organization allocation request, subsection A, real estate club. I'll hand it over to Organization Relations Officer Mormon. Yeah? No? Is it for Ben?
I think it's you, Ricky.
Oh, sorry.
It's you, yeah.
My bad.
So this organization is a new organization that was established earlier this semester. And so as being a new organization, they are compliant with getting that $200 or requesting that $200. They want to use it for office supplies and those kind of things. I actually got to meet with the guy who has started this organization, and the way they want to use these funds is very much in compliance with what we have in the finance manual. And yeah. Any questions?
All right, I will now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to approve. Senator Lambert.
I move to approve line item 9, new business, section 2, new organization allocation request, subsection A, real estate, a club, new organization allocation of $200.
Moved by Senator Lambert. Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Jones. And we will now proceed with roll call vote.
Acclamation.
Acclamation has been called. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the motion is passed. Congratulations. All right, moving on to section 3, petitioning organization, subsection A, print council. I will now hand it over to Organization Relations Officer Mormon.
All right, so this is a new org, the Print Council. They are looking to give students opportunities to further their printmaking abilities. They also look to try and expand the printmaking program at SIUE, as well as provide students with the program, a group of peers to discuss all things print related. We did not have quorum, so we were not able to vote on this at SOAB.
All right, I will now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion for approval. Senator Shahan.
I move to approve line item 9, new business, subsection 3, petitioning organization, subsection A, print council.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Hens. We will now proceed with a roll call vote.
Acclamation.
Acclamation has been called. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the motion has passed. Congratulations. All right, moving on to line item 10, presidential and personnel appointments. Section 1, Senator for the School of Business, and Section 2, Senator for the School of Engineering. I will now hand it over to Dr. Jeffrey Waple. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. All right. So we have the Senator for the School of Business. Isabella, and the Senator for School of Engineering, Hazal. And so I'll start with the Senator for School of Business. She seemed very excited to be a part of this, and I really appreciated her efforts in wanting to apply for this position. And she seemed very excited to start a leadership position, and I think she will do great in this position. And then moving on to Senator for the School of Engineering, we have Hazal. She was great. She had some great experience, and I think she will also do great in this position. And she showed leadership that I thought was better than the other applicants. So, yeah. Do I have to approve it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll start with the Senator for School of Business. Do we have to discuss? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. All right, seeing none, I will now entertain a motion for approval. Senator Richards?
I move to approve line item 10, presidential appointments, section 1, Senator for School of Business, Isabella Francis.
Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Lambert. We will now proceed with the roll call vote.
Acclamation.
Acclamation has been called. Are there any objections? You have to do individual. Okay, we will now proceed with the roll call vote.
All righty, give me just 1 second to get my wits together. All right, Senator Abrego.
Aye.
Senator Kaysen.
Aye.
Senator Dummerth.
Aye.
Senator Ford. Senator Gillis.
Aye.
Senator Hens.
Aye.
Senator Holthauser.
Aye.
Senator Jones.
Aye.
Senator Lambert.
Aye.
Senator Richards. Aye. Senator Strahan.
Aye.
Senator Nichols.
Aye.
And the ayes have it.
All right, congratulations. Moving on to section 2, Senator for School of Engineering. I will now entertain a motion to open the floor for discussion. Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion for approval. Senator Strahan?
I move to approve line item 10, presidential or personnel appointments, subsection 2, Senator for the School of Engineering.
Moved by Senator Strahan. Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Lambert. We will now proceed with the roll call vote.
Senator Abrego.
Aye.
Senator Kaysen. Aye. Senator Dummerth.
Aye.
Senator Ford.
Aye.
Senator Gillis.
Aye.
Senator Hens.
Aye.
Senator Holshouser.
Aye.
Senator Jones.
Aye.
Senator Lambert.
Aye.
Senator Richards. Aye. Senator Strahan.
Aye.
Senator Nichols.
Aye.
And the ayes have it.
Congratulations. I'll now hand it over to Dr. Leopold.
You can photo this. So you look picture this. Are we good?
Can you hear me?
So we're gonna do the oath of office, okay? So you just repeat after me after I say the words, okay?
So I state your name. Okay. Solemnly promise. You can do it together. To perform my duties and responsibilities to the best of my ability while preserving the mission and values of the university. I also vow to uphold the Constitution and bylaws of SIUE student government while striving for the betterment of the university for all students, faculty, and staff. Congratulations, you are now officially on student government.
I got it. Moving on to line item 11, open forum. If
I am
there's-
already here.
Okay.
Ah, crap, just a minute.
So every other week I meet with President Odell and Trustee Walters and Kelly Jo and Liz. And so they wanted me to provide you a compliant. I'm going to come every other week and provide you a compliance update of how we're doing institutionally with COVID. I have good news and some better news. So so students who are being suspended for the rest of the semester, we started that 2 weeks ago. And those are students who have missed at least 6 or 7 missed COVID, have not done anything. We ended up suspending 30 of those students. Only heard from a few of them. Our guess is that a majority of them probably stopped out, withdrew, didn't officially withdraw, were ghost students, maybe never showed up. But we did have a few respond to us who were like, what do you mean? I didn't know. And I'm like, yes, you did. You just didn't read the information we sent you over and over and over again. So it's not a lot. And so when we started this process, we had about 322 students who had missed between 1 and 6 tests. We are down to 234. And almost half of those students now have missed 1, 2, or 3. So we're dealing with a much smaller end number here of those who are in danger of, because when you get to 5, you're intermittently suspended. When you get to 6, you're suspended. And then you get to 7, you're suspended from all on ground and blended courses or being on campus and being in housing. The good news is that on Friday, this past Friday, we were down to 7. First week 30, last week 7 students who've been separated or removed from the institution. We've not heard from any of those 7, which is rare, which also probably tells me they weren't really engaged in the institution. So we are working through that. We are actually meeting on Wednesday as a core team to discuss how those students could return in the spring and under what conditions. Unfortunately, I will share this with you. Once you are suspended from on-ground and blended courses, there's no getting back in this semester. We've already had to talk to a few students about that. It's just what it is. They didn't comply for 8 weeks. I didn't comply for 8 weeks, guys. So that's what we're doing. We're holding the line on that. We have a few upset students with us, but that's the nature of it. But for the most part, if you think about it, down to 300 or 234 students who have missed 1 or more tests is really small compared to if we had 10,000 students on ground this semester. So any questions about compliance, testing, those type of things? I will tell you that, as I mentioned last week, right now, the same policies and procedures, vaccinate or testing, will continue into the spring unless there's a change in the executive order from the governor. And who knows? He's been out talking about maybe reducing that mandate, reducing the mask mandate. We're planning as if all those things will be in place for spring. And if there's any changes to that, we will let you know. Cool. Any questions? There's questions.
Okay. I'm curious, do any of the suspended students live on campus?
Only one. Oh, well, not anymore. Yeah, so here's the deal. I will tell you, with our housing students, I mean, we went to their door and delivered the letters at 5. When they're at 5 missed tests, we delivered to them, so you got to do this, you got to do this. And we had one student that was just not going to do it, no matter what. So we delivered those right to their room. Our RAs are talking to them. There's messages on Blackboard. There are so many messages, and Kelly Jo's nodding her head because she's one of our hearing officers, and Liz is too. There's so much communication going to them, but we have, and this is the thing. We're not telling people you have to vaccinate. You just have to vaccinate or test and communicate with us. It's just amazing because I hear all the interim suspension appeals and 6 suspension appeals, all they had to do was just say, hey, my professor said we don't have to come the last 2 weeks. Well, you retrieved our letter 3 weeks ago that told you what to do. Why didn't you do it? I think you were serious. You get a letter from the vice chancellor, student affairs, the dean, and students say you must do this or else, and you don't think that's serious. So in this new round, only 2 were housing students. So out of the 37, only 3 were in housing.
So for those students, do they get their housing fees back?
It's prorated back, yes, but they don't get tuition or fees back. That day has passed a long time ago, but it's prorated from the time that they are removed from housing and their meal plan, prorated.
Okay.
Good question.
Senator Abrego.
Hi, how does housing handle, I know when students are suspended from housing, at least in the residence halls where you swipe in.
Oh, yes.
If you're in Cougar, you don't swipe to enter. So how do you keep track of whether they're actually gone?
We know because our housing staff goes to those places. So I will tell you, so far, they've not been in Cougar. They've been in our first year halls. So we turn off card access. So they can't swipe in or swipe out. So our upperclassmen who live in Cougar or Evergreen have been compliant. We have a few new students, and now I will tell you, for the most part, when speaking with their families, they're anti-vaxxers. And I remind them, well, we're not telling your child they just have to spit in the tube and test. And then they disagree with the governor, and I said, well, that's fine. But this is our policy, and that's why your student is no longer here. So then they say, well, I'm going to go to another institution. I said, well, they have the same rules we do in Illinois. You can go to Missouri, maybe a little different, but if you're going to stay in Illinois, and they're like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, every institution in Illinois, private and public, has that same policy. So Cougar, fortunately, but if they were in Cougar, our housing staff would go with them. They would have to check out. They would have to move out. We have that process too if you live in our first year halls or in Evergreen. Good question.
Thank you.
I have some more stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question, I forget, maybe it was Senator Sheehan, someone over here, Senator Richard, maybe asked about counseling in the halls. And I so much wanted to jump. I'm sorry.
Secretary Moxley.
Secretary Moxley. Sorry, it came from that side of the room. Sorry. So I so much wanted to jump up here when Mallory's up here because we do have a plan, but we need your help. So I will tell you the first thing that is happening, and then 2 things we need help. So there'll be a process soon. We're actually talking about tomorrow director's meeting. We've been provided some CARES dollars, some HERF dollars, to do a pilot program for peer educators and counseling. And our plan is to kind of not only have those folks in the counseling office, but in housing and other areas as well. So, and there'll be some information coming out about that. There'll be a pilot program in the spring. So if you are interested in that type of field or that type of work, encourage yourself and the friends to look at that. Now, there are 2 things out there. House Bill 2152. Trustee Walters may be aware. I know Kelly Jo's aware of this, maybe Haley a little bit. So House Bill 2152 was passed by the legislature a couple of years ago, and but it's not funded yet, and it's a state level funding. And it's one of the things in there is that it is asking each college and university to have the 1,250 counselor to student ratio, which is the International Counseling Association's accreditation standard. If that is funded, we actually have a plan to put counselors in housing and in academic departments on a rotating basis, especially in our high stress, high engineering, nursing, pharmacy, dental, those type of things, and in athletics. And there's 4 of them. There's 4 counselors that we could receive as part of that funding. But the other thing that we've talked about that I said you'll all have to grapple with is that when we start discussing about the fees and fee commission, increase in fees would get us more counselors. Could, depending on how much we can do. We've not had a fee increase, as you know, how many years. So we've not been able to increase our staff in there. So if we can get some funding from either the state level or a fee level, potentially we could add those, but we're going to go with the peer educators starting in the spring, which is good news. So I see lots of placards up. So I'll stop there with that one.
Senator Lambert.
Yeah, so my question was just on with the peer educators program, those who are serving as peer educators, would they be considered mandatory reporters with the position that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We've not gone that far.
I can answer that actually a little bit for you. I'm work with Call for Help, and so even just being a volunteer, you're a mandatory
Yes.
reporter. So I'm assuming that the answer would be yes to
Probably.
Senator Lambert's question.
Probably, but I'm going to let Jessica Ulrich answer that question or address that when we get to it. And peer educators, by the way, was one of the parameters in House Bill 2152 that they're asking college universities to implement. So we'll start on that implementation this spring, but they are probably going to be mandatory reporters, but they are also held by the confidential standard because they're working for counseling.
President Odell.
Sorry, pass next. No.
So in conversation that I've had with Chancellor Pembroke, he's told me that there is supposed to be funding coming for House Bill 2152. I might have misunderstood him. Is that not the case?
The legislator would have to pass that and put that in the next funding that happens in April and May of this next year.
Okay, my understanding was that had already happened. We were just
no.
waiting for that money.
It has not already happened. Trust me,
Okay.
if it already happened, we'd be dancing for joy.
Yeah. Is there do you know if that's something that they're planning on doing? Maybe that's what he said. They do hope to do that.
So we had a hearing with the legislature about a month ago. I was involved in that and Jessica Ulrich was involved in that, and all the state institutions got to be a part of a hearing with the House Committee, the Funding Committee, the Mental Health Early Action Committee. It was positive. It was positive. And the senators said, well, we got to find a way to do this. Now, there's so many things that they got to find a way to do. I would anticipate that this is probably a high priority of them. But, when it comes time to fund K through 12, fund higher ed, fund the correction system, who knows? It's a weird cycle. But we won't know if we're funded really until the new budget cycle comes out. So the earliest we would get funding is on July 1st of 2022, which then means we would have to open up hiring. And so, and what I've said in the hearings with our senators is that, but this is permanent funding. So I will tell you, because I've seen the numbers, and don't quote me on the exact numbers, but to fund this type of support for all private, public, and community colleges in the state of Illinois is about a $13 million a year investment. And so in my hearing, I said, so it can't be just 13 million one year and then you cut it. It's got to be there all the time if we're going to meet the need. And that's a big commitment because you can cut and pull, but that's something that I would recommend them not pulling. So I think that's what they're debating now. So it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
But we're hopeful.
Student Secretary Moxley.
So are we talking here so I've gone to counseling service and I know that when I did my initial assessment, it was with a grad student. So are we talking in the dorms, initial assessments? Are we talking after that? So
I don't know.
afterwards. Okay.
That's Jessica Ulrich, director, will be developing that program. We haven't even made it that far. She just put the proposal together last Monday. It was approved on Thursday and we're getting the funding this week. So we're running fast to get it ready. So but she'll be able to answer those questions.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. One more thing of good interest. We had an RFI for banking services. As many as you know, Kelly Jo's on the review team. We had four submissions. We had four submissions. I will stop there. They're very interesting submissions. So our team will be reviewing that and looking at a potential selection of another banking partner. But just remember, BUC ends on November 19th, which is very soon. We'll have a disruption in services for sure. We're hoping no later than March. So that's what I know about that. And I cannot divulge the names of the banks, if that's what you're asking.
Are they all banks?
I cannot.
Okay, fine. All right. My real question was going to be, how long are they going to be out for? Like, so I know we have BUC's going to be gone, and then is it going to be like a gap for a couple months or so?
My guess, so in the proposals, we said we would prefer the new banking partner to start no later than March 1st. But it's negotiable. So these processes take time, not only in the selection, but then the contract and the lawyers, and then renovating their pieces of it, not necessarily renovation to the, we had one inquiry, that said, are you going to remove the safe? Well, no. You probably want a safe in the bank. We're not removing. So the space that they get is the space that they get. And then we will move from there. So the last time when we negotiated with BUC, it was about a 2 or 3 month process from time of selection to time of actually starting. Yes, Kelly Jo's nodding her head, and she would be the person that would manage that process as director of MUC.
Then, I have one more question. Are there any acquisition costs with this?
What do you mean?
I mean, lawyer fees or anything like that, or is it all like?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Senator Holzhauser.
So going back to the counseling services that we were talking about before. So Senator Nichols was talking about potentially with counseling services implementing a student fee. I know they could probably speak more, like a student service fee. I know they could probably speak more on that. And that's something we'll probably touch on with fee review too. But with House Bill 2152 and that kind of funding, is that something that would also be discussed in like removing for students?
So there's lots of questions that you just asked there.
Yeah.
It's okay. So pre-COVID, who was around? Senator Gillett. Yeah, some of you were around. We talked about the user fee for services in health and counseling, or the no-show fee. Some of you are around for that. As student government was not supportive of that. We also thought we were getting fee funded, which now we haven't. And so that's part of the discussion, is that should there be a user fee for certain services, not for all, but for some, especially, I'll tell you, we're eating the cost on labs. Doing, especially COVID testing and strep testing and all the lab stuff we have to do. I will tell you that the challenge one of the challenges we have in there, which is not totally public, but our lab person is probably retiring this year. And we will have to find a lab person there's so many certifications you need to have to run the CLIA lab, to run all the cultures and all the stuff, because we do a lot of that in-house and then manage that. So if we can't find that person and we have to contract out, sending the labs out, we may need to talk about a user fee for labs. There's other things that are free because you do pay a fee. And most of the fee that you pay covers the cost of staffing. And you'll hear that in fee review, you hear that discussion happening, and you'll have to grapple with that. I see both sides. I see, wait a minute, you're charging us more to use the service, we're paying a fee. I also see that we've not received a fee increase in 3 years. And so and so we're working through a process right now. I'm looking at Kelly Jo because we have these discussions all the time. You know, we're working on a fee process that may look at 0%. And a 0% fee increase means we stop doing some things. What those are in counseling and health, I can't answer that right now. Rhiann Greenwald and Jessica Ulrich are looking at that. So we're as a student body and the student government, these are things that the fee commission, when we get it moving, and the student government, you will grapple with, as we are, because there's just not enough money to do all the things we want to do, which is where a prioritization discussion from the students will happen, along with the administration, on what we really can and can't do if our board of trustees allows us to increase fees. And that's important to know. We've gotten student support, by the way. You've been great at supporting fee increases to support our students. It's not been totally supported by the board. They're trying to keep costs low. We're trying to keep affordability. There's a whole bunch of things. But fee increases mean we're putting more of what we're doing on the backs of students, things that you will have to think about as the leadership of our students on campus. And any new tuition increase only impacts new students, freshmen, unless there's special grad program things, because you have a 4-year guarantee on tuition not going up, right? So even that money is small in revenue. The fees, we don't have that guarantee, but they've been flat for now 3 years. So all things to grapple with and think. Did I answer all your questions, or did I think I missed one?
No, I think everything was
Okay.
covered well. Thank
All
you.
right. So like I said, things we'll have to grapple with and think about. And we'll see where it goes. One of the great things that Kelly Jo and I will tell you is that we don't tell you what to do with fees we were going to come to you. We're going to say, here's our thoughts. You're going to have discussions with us. You're going to say, here's what we support. Because when we go, if we have a chance to go to the board in April with a fee increase or new fees, the students have to support it. We will not go to the board with a proposal without student support. And that's been our mantra since I've been here and probably before I was here. So we do, it's very critical. And those of you who've been involved in the process before know that it's you're paying those fees to support your things. And we have to be a good steward of student dollars and make sure we have student support on how to spend those dollars. Wow, I took a long time. Okay, one more thing, good thing. So see you at the parade, those who are going to be there. If you don't know, actually SIUE has a car that represents the institution. Dr. Pembroke can't make it, so I'm representing SIUE. I'll be walking with you. I think you're 2 or 3 behind me. Anyone wants to run up with me and hand out candy or walk with me, come on ahead, but I'll see you, those of you who are going to be, I'll see you at the parade on Sunday and try to have a safe Saturday. Cool. I'm done. Are you ready? All right. Any more questions? I'll be around afterwards if anyone has any further questions. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Wapel. Go ahead, Liz.
All right. Little height difference in the mics. First reminder, on Saturday, it is trick or treat in Edwardsville. So if you're there, would like to provide candy for everyone, feel free to do so. I hope to see everyone at the parade. Kelly Jo and I are expecting good candy thrown our way. She was specifically like chocolate. I would like the Reese's. So note that. All right. Veteran Services is offering Green Zone training. It's much like the Safe Zone training. If anyone is interested in learning more about working with that population, the first one is November 1st at 10 a.m. If you want more info, feel free to reach out to myself, or you can reach out to, I'll put the information on Slack. Thursday is late night at the Muck. There will be a costume contest, bowling, and snacks from 6 to 9:30 in Cougar Lanes. And on October 29th is the Friday Free Flick at 6 p.m. in Science East. They'll be showing A Quiet Place 2. A reminder that there's a flu shot clinic tomorrow in the Student Success Center if you're interested. And then also Cougar Madness is on Thursday as well, starting at 7 p.m. in the First Community Arena, so the kickoff of the basketball season. And then if anyone's interested, we still have some spots left over in our Catalyst Leadership Day for November 6th. It is a leadership development program that's put on by the Kimmel Leadership. The deadline to register is this Friday, so I'll be sending out that information as well. Any questions? All great.
Yeah. Thank you, Liz. All right, we will move on to line item 12, announcements. Anyone with an announcement may speak now.
I do have a quick announcement for you guys. As you all know, I went to the leadership lunch in October. Very fun, very informative, learned lots of things. There's another one in November, I believe on the 17th. Kenzie, do you know if that's correct or not?
I believe so, but I can double check and send it in Slack
It is.
later. I also highly recommend going to Catalyst, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. So it's definitely on a Wednesday, which the Wednesday is the 17th, but it might be the 10th. I'm not 100% sure. But President Mahoney is coming to speak at that. And I think that that could be very valuable for all of us. So if you have noon on Wednesday available and can come to that, I will be there. President Mahoney will be there. It'll be a good time. So I'm encouraged to do that. I'll remind you later, of course, you know that. But that's all.
I have one real quick. Make sure that if you are signed up for a mental health week event this week, that you check your email. I did send out additional details for each person who signed up on exactly what you'll need and what you'll need to do for each event. So thank you guys.
All right, anybody else? All right, seeing none. I will now move on to line item 13, adjournment. I will now entertain a motion for adjournment. Senator Hens?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
All right, moved by Senator Hens. I adjourn this meeting at 7:34 p.m. Yay.